Hello everyone and welcome to episode 4 of KERV your go-to destination for all things entrepreneurship, KERV life and the untold stories which shaped our journey. My name is Ben, Marketing Manager at KERV and host of KERV. Today we'll be discussing operations in business, how that works, why you should consider it from the off, and managing multiple operations across multiple businesses. And joining us today is Mr. Smooth Operator himself, Chief Operations Officer at KERV Capital and avid Norwich City supporter, Mr. Marc Rayner. Welcome to the podcast, Marc.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Do you like a little shoddy little introduction there?
Yeah, it was beautiful.
Oh, mate, honestly,
Beautiful.
I thought Monday, let's kick things off right with
That's
a little
it.
shoddy.
That's it.
To be fair, mate, you can actually be called Smooth Operator now.
Oh,
if you want,
Smooth
mate.
Operator, I like
Mate,
it.
I'm flying today. I'm absolutely
Brilliant.
flying.
I get that on the email signature.
Yeah. We'll start off, obviously, operations in business.
Yeah.
Starting off with that. Start off with a little backstory with yourself, Marc, as to how you got into operations in the first place and where you are today with COO at KERV Capital.
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually came into recruitment right after I left uni. Left uni and pretty much next day started working in recruitment as an actual recruitment consultant, really. Didn't really have a lot of sales experience previously. Maybe took a bit longer to kind of get going with it. And eventually took a slightly different path and kind of more of a support role, helping the other guys with their recruitment and, resourcing and that thing. And then also helping with the finance department, doing stuff on that. And just generally working with the company I was in then had a sort of a separate admin team, so helping with various operational bits, and it kind of went from there. And then moved into another business more as a head of resourcing. Again, got much more involved in a lot of the operational stuff like job boards, things like that. LinkedIn, all the other supporting resources. Until I then eventually moved to. At the time, it was Kevin Edward Consultancy. That was the one business at the time then. Again, to look at the resourcing side, but also with a view to helping them manage the operations. And then obviously very quickly, KERV Group grew to what it is today, where, managing anything that isn't sales, basically, is managed by the central operations team. Which comes on to me. So
Comes on you,
yeah,
jack of all trades.
That's it.
Really,
that's
on the
it.
CEO.
I know a lot, a little about a lot.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think a lot of operations is like that. Really, it's a bit of everything. Really,
That's it.
Isn't it? Absolutely.
That's it. Just knowing a bit about everything, how everything works,
Yeah.
keeping a little finger in everything, so that you kind of never sort of too far away from it all.
Yeah, absolutely. From your own perspective, then, as an operations COO now of KERV Capital, would you say that operations and your role itself as a team, how much does that contribute to the success of a business?
Obviously, I'm going to be biased and say it's vital. It's
Operations.
Vital. That's it. Operations all the way. But no, seriously, operations is it's key really.
Yeah.
Obviously, businesses is all about making money, right? So sales is key, but you can't sort of generate the sales without all the stuff in the background helping you out. So that's why operations is vital. So, for us and the setup we've got with the central operations team, that means that we can plug into any business and support them however they need it. Ideally, we'd do it from a full support and do everything. So all they have to focus on is sales then. So, it's vitally important to help them, grow as quickly as they can, bring in as much sales as they can. So they don't have to worry about the operational side of it, because it is a worry.
Absolutely.
It is a worry.
I feel like with operations, it's sort of like in the background, but it's the cogs that potentially keep
The
on.
unsung heroes, Ben. That's what we are.
That's what it is, mate. That's spot on. But would you describe it sort of as that for an operations perspective? Just the cogs that are in the background?
The many cogs in the background that help the machine keep rolling. And you take one of those cogs out and things can grind to a halt.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's why it's really important, and that's why it's important for not just working with KERV, but just anyone setting up a business. You've got to think about all the cogs and make sure they're all they're all covered, and it's all well-oiled machine.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So obviously you manage within the KERV portfolio so many different businesses.
Yeah.
Obviously there is the recruitment ones which predominantly are in, but also we've got numerous other ones which are different and different operations. Do operations differ with each business, or is it quite similar, or is it essentially is it different from
Yeah, I'd say the core operations, if you look at it in, say, departments, the core departments within any business are pretty similar. You've got your finance department, your marketing department, operations. Obviously, the actual operations itself can vary depending on, whether you manufacture something or whatever. But obviously, from us, we're service providers, so the operations would be all the stuff in, the other bits in the background. But yeah, I'd say it's quite similar. There's obviously various different sort of nuances, business to business. They might have a certain process that needs to be, added in there that will need help managing. But yeah, I'd say the operations process, if you basically think of everything other than sales, is very, very similar from business to business. Probably how you approach it might be slightly different company to company, and certainly if you look at our portfolio with the different number of businesses, and obviously each business has got its own different business partners, it then becomes more a case of actually managing the relationships with people. So it's a lot more about relationship management, and then how a different individual, what's the best way to communicate with that individual, how they prefer to be communicated with, and then that's probably a bit more tricky, if anything, to actually work out how to deal with an individual, or if there's a couple of business partners, and then making sure that it works for them, and that the working relationship between them is right.
I think with all that you're seeing there, there is so much that goes into it. Like, I know you're giving a little nod there, but I think there is so much in it. And do you think potentially for entrepreneurs who are, they're maybe just starting the business themselves, or maybe they've been going themselves for a while, but they haven't really considered operations as something they need, maybe, because there's so much that goes into it. What would you put, how high would you put having operations within a business as? How high would you rate it and rank it?
What do you mean, as in having maybe a team to support you, or someone to help you with
or
it,
or even considering it as a solo entrepreneur? Do you know what I mean?
I'd say, like I said before, obviously getting sales in is and making money is what a business wants to do, first and foremost. But yeah, you've got to consider the operations behind it, and if any element of it isn't working quite right, or it's not set up correctly, or it's focused on the wrong thing, then that's obviously going to have an impact, probably on the amount of sales, or the amount of people that are coming back to you on on leads, because you're not targeting the right people, or whatever it might be. So it's really important to consider it, and you should consider it from the outset, because you can look at there's obviously so much tech and stuff available to help with any element of, if you take recruitment for example, any element of the recruitment process can be, you can plug a piece of tech in to help with it. But certainly with a startup business, you don't want to be, you've got to be a bit selective, and consider, well, hang on, if I get it all now and rinse through my whatever budget is at the beginning, then a few months down the line, is it really gonna have been the best thing to do, and the best sort of use of the budget?
Yeah, absolutely. Really. So it's the sustainability of it, really. Absolutely. I mean, you've got to consider that. I'd assume.
Yeah, that's it. You kind of look at it. So what are the must-haves, and what are the nice-to-haves? So do a bit of a strategic review of your industry, what you're trying to do, what you're trying to target, who you're trying to target, and then look at what okay, for me to be able to do that, what do I need? What's vital to do that? Not like what's nice and looks really fancy. And it's
sort of like talking to a kid, isn't it? Well, what do you need? You might want something, but do you need it?
Do you really need it? Could you actually do it without it for now? Not saying don't ever get it, obviously, just here and now. Let's just think about, well, Okay, could you do it without that? Yeah, right. Well, let's put that to park it. Okay, what about this? No, I could not do my job without that. Right, then we need it.
Yeah.
And then it's
Yeah.
going that
Absolutely.
Going that way.
The needs and the wants, really.
Well,
of
that's it.
Absolutely.
That's it.
So with that being said, and the needs and the wants, do you feel that operations, obviously, like what you've just said there about constructing the needs and the wants, and obviously everything that's behind that and going on in the background for the cogs and whatnot turning, does having a sturdy operations in place then lead to better sales potentially or better performance within the business? I know that you mentioned there earlier before about, in order to, maybe you're doing well in sales, but having a good operations behind you and something that can recommend, like you said, tech before, things like that.
Yeah.
Does having that good base of operations then lead to better performance in other areas as well?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say so. I'd say so. Because, I mean, yeah, if you're doing it all yourself, and so you're doing the sales, you're doing the operations, marketing, you're doing it all, then, yeah, you're obviously going to be able to, you're going to bring sales in, but then your time's getting taken away focusing on chasing a late invoice, creating content for your LinkedIn page and your website, or, I don't know, fixing a broken toilet in the
It varies.
So having that support in the background is, ultimately it's gonna mean you do more in terms of the output, the sales, definitely, because you don't have to focus on fixing that toilet or writing that content. You got a team there helping you with it. Yes, you get, for instance, with the content, you have to input on it, obviously you do, but you don't, it's not your sole focus. You can focus on making the money.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, well, that's with any business, isn't it? That's the main aim, to be doing that. And that's obviously the more that support that you can get with that, the better.
Well, that's it. And certainly in the early stages of a new business, you want to start making money as soon as possible, right? To be able to afford to carry on going. So if you've got that, if you've got a team behind you from the outset to help support with that, and they've already done a lot of it, been there, done that, they know what works, what doesn't work in the general sense. Yes, there's always going to be bits to learn, like we said, if it's a different business or something slightly different, but at least having that base there already, it's gonna be a big win.
I think obviously we spoke about having a team behind you. Not everyone will have that, will they?
No. And it's not cheap, obviously, to hire a team behind you, right?
Absolutely. And for those entrepreneurs or people who are starting a business who might not have that limited resource, which is common. It's so common to have that. What would you recommend that those with a tighter budget or limited resources, potentially the benefits of having an operations team to then advise on that, or those who don't have the teams who might not be too sure on how to get an operations team or something like that with the limited resource to have? Yeah,
obviously, don't get much for free in life anymore. So it costs money to have a team in the background. Obviously, the setup we've got with KERV, it's you pay your monthly, I don't know what you call it, an operations fee, if you will, and then you get the full back office support, which it costs thousands and thousands if you were to recruit that. So, but if for people just doing it kind of themselves and maybe don't have the budget to obviously recruit the team behind them to do it, or go down the route of a KERV or something like that, then it's all about just sort of, I suppose, using the relationships you've got, speaking to people, asking advice where you need it. If you need help with something, there's always people that will offer advice. Most people, certainly entrepreneurs, tend to have a bit of a network of connections, or maybe other entrepreneurs and business owners who are usually more than willing to offer a little bit of advice. It's obviously there's a bit of a fine line in then getting too much advice and then trying to do it all. But obviously try and use the relationships you've got wherever possible and ask for advice. In terms of bringing help in, certainly doing it through a vehicle like KERV would be the cheaper way of doing it. because instead of having to employ each individual person, you pay your monthly fee for the full setup. There's probably other resources where you can look to maybe bring people in on a sort of a temporary basis, perhaps to focus on something. I think it's just important. Just do whatever you can to help ease some of that burden, however that is. Ease some of it so that you have got more time free to focus on sales.
Yeah, it's interesting because in the last podcast we did with Andy, in the last podcast, we spoke about having that supportive network.
Yeah,
and I think having that, whether it just be like one or two people at the start, something who are, like you said, advice just on things. And that's what sometimes I see a lot of operations is, to be fair, people are coming to you because you're good at that specific area. Yeah. And it's always nice to have that supportive network and someone behind you, especially for starting entrepreneurs who might be completely unsure about how to start the business or increase revenue within or whatever that is. And having that supportive network behind you, whether it's in the form of family or more helpfully as operations team, if you can. I think that's so important from an emotional scale as well. Would you say so?
Yeah, definitely. Just having someone to vent at sometimes. You've had a bad day or something's pissed you off. You just want to have a shout at someone, right? Mine's usually my wife. She gets it in the ear when I get home. So
Do you feel that sometimes, or maybe as CEO, obviously people might come to you with actual strategic problems, but people might just come to you just for a general chat,
Yeah, very often. It could be anything. They just want some advice on something. Do you know what? It's not even always work related.
Yeah.
Sometimes people just want to have a chat, which is fine. I get that. It's running a business and just work in general. It consumes you. Your day is just taken up. So it's good to sometimes have that. Just a bit of a downtime and just go and have a chat with someone, chat about football, as we obviously do quite often.
Sunderland and Norwich.
That's it.
Good shout out.
That's it. But it's definitely good to have that emotional support. Whenever I can, I'll always, if people come to me and ask me questions or just want to have a chat, then I will do. Offer whatever advice I can.
I think it's important to consider operations like that, although it's not the main purpose, but I think with sort of any walk in, recruitment is a tough business. It's a tough business. And I think that the fact that you've got any supportive network, whether it is through operations, like I'm saying, is important to have.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Definitely, And obviously, mental health, well-being and all of that, it's a massive thing at the moment. Rightly so. It's much more important and much more focused on now than it ever has been. And again, part of the role of my role and the operations team and being that sort of support for that side of things as well. One of my hats I wear would be HR director as well. So a lot of it comes under that. And if people need to have a chat about something, or if someone recognises some signs of something, it's being there to help with that. And we've had numerous business partners come in who they've got this business idea, they want to make it work, they go really hard at it, but they don't give them that's all they focus on. They don't give themselves any other time, and then it gets to the point where maybe they they have some burnout, or it gets too much, and they've just kind of bottled it all up, which is probably quite a male thing to do as well, absolutely. Generally. I think it's really important to have it, not just as the actual business operations support. It's that emotional support as well.
Do you find that in your day-to-day sort of role that is actually, whether it's common, I'm not too sure, but do you find that actually with Aussie within the KERV portfolio specifically, there's like 16, 17 businesses within there. Do you ever find that people will come to you just for that potentially, or asking for advice and stuff?
That's it. Or quite often just on an evening, I'll have a chat with someone. They'll have had maybe they've had a bad day for whatever reason. They'll just ring up and not necessarily take it out on me, but they'll vent at me a bit, and they'll maybe I don't know, something hasn't been fixed, so they'll start with that. But then it quite quickly becomes clear, they just want to have a bit of an event, which is fine. People need to do it.
No, absolutely.
People definitely need to do it.
Yeah. Like I come back to, obviously, like last week when I was speaking to Andy, he was on about burnout and whatnot.
Yeah.
And obviously common as an entrepreneur and stuff.
Very common.
And he was saying, obviously, that having even just a mate at the pub or something like that, just to go speak to and whatnot. And I suppose having that operations team, or even like a team or anything, like can be that helpful role. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Just having that someone, not obviously we're not completely impartial because we're helping, but almost having that person that's not fully entrenched in their business day to day. We're there helping where we can, but just someone that they can kind of come to who maybe understands what's going on and knows a bit about it. Just having them there.
What common operational sort of pitfalls do you see from, it could be experienced entrepreneurs, it could be new entrepreneurs coming in. What are the commonalities that you find when people come into business and they potentially don't consider it? What are the common pitfalls that you find in terms of operations and whatnot?
I guess one kind of quite a common one, and not just within KERV. I've heard it. It happens. Outside as well. People come in, they want to set up a business. They've obviously got this really great idea, grand ambition for this business. They've maybe come out from doing. They've been doing the role as an employed person, doing very well, managing a really high performing team. They come in and do it in their own business, and they just try and change everything. So they've gone from working in something where it works, and they've got everything set up, all the systems, and they come in and they think, right, I'm going to scrap that and try and do it differently. That's really. I don't know if it's just part of people have this thing, right? It's my business, I'm going to do it my way, which I get. It is your business, you want to do it your way, but still, don't lose sight of what worked.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it works, right? And then build from that. If things need to change, they can change over time, but don't try and change. Don't change the wheel.
Absolutely. I think from that perspective, I think maybe the advice is like just don't run before you can walk.
Don't run before you can walk.
Do you find that sort of common in sort of potentially trying to do too much at once?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, something else, I know we've talked about using your network, asking people's advice, but there's a fine line of, not getting too much advice, but you speak to that many people, every person will tell you something different, or they'll recommend something slightly different. Obviously, it doesn't mean you have to go with it all, and not everything works for every business. So yes, get the advice, but just kind of then take the time to properly process it and actually assess, is this going to work for my business? Thinking about what worked before. Is this going to enhance it, or is it a replacement, is it an addition? And kind of goes back to that need and must have.
Taking a step back maybe just to reassess. And I think from an operations point of view, you can provide that advice in terms of strategically thinking about a business.
Exactly. I mean, probably if you ask quite a lot of people, I'm probably seen as the bad guy in quite a lot of things, because I'll always be the one that says, well, hang on, let's not rush into that. But I think it's important to do that. In that entrepreneurial world, it is very fast moving, and it's about moving quickly. But then I think there's just certain things, particularly when you look at the operations, that it's worth taking a little bit more time on sometimes. Because it could be an expensive mistake if you go for the wrong thing. So it's definitely worth doing. But I get working in an entrepreneurial environment. It's everything needs to be done pretty quickly.
Are there any sort of early warning signs when you see potential pitfalls coming that would be useful to understand potentially for an entrepreneur from an operational side of things? Are there any sort of warning signs that you potentially see and you think, whoa, actually we're going a bit too fast there, like you were saying before?
I I mean, if you look at kind of, I suppose, our process, we try and put a bit of a plan in place right at the beginning. So you've got your launch plan, and then you've got your first 3-6 months. So you try and plan for that as much as you can. So it's, I suppose, early warning signs within that would be when people are trying to skip ahead and get everything done like week one, rather than letting it run the course of the plan. So within our environment, that would be an early warning sign. I guess it probably comes back to the managing the relationship, the relationship management side of it, and how you deal with the individual or the individuals. You kind of pick up on certain things, like maybe certain language they're using, or if they're constantly saying, "Oh, I've spoken to this person, they said this is great," or they maybe kind of lose interest in something a bit too quick, don't give it a good go. That could be something, but that's kind of more once it's sort of up and running, I guess. It's just I guess it's just looking for this. I don't know.
Is it in the operations team as a part of the role, and is it to actually look out for them pitfalls? Obviously, we're always helping and supporting entrepreneurs and teams and whatnot, but is it part of the role to then help them recognise these pitfalls?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you've got to try and obviously, if any of the KERV senior team spot anything, then it's important to make sure that the business partners know, or we highlight it to them. But then equally, it's their business. We don't want to just be constantly sat there telling them what to do and what not to do. Yeah. So it's a fine line of sort of using our experience and kind of what we've seen happen, and then sort of trying to let them know about that, and if we notice it, say, but then also being appreciative of the fact that it's their business, and yes, they do want to put their own stamp on it and everything. But it's definitely part of the role, part of the the ops team and the senior leadership team around it, is to look for any signs of this and try and help with it
as much
wherever
as
we can, and as soon as possible, before it gets too far far down the line with anything.
I think, have you ever sort of experienced that when it might have gone too far, or something like that, or anything like that, in terms of a business might have made the wrong decision or something like that? Have you ever experienced that and thought, oh, do you know what, from an operational side of things, if we had got involved, then it might be different? Or
trying to think of
it's fine if you haven't. I'm just curious.
I mean, there's bound to there's been occasions where maybe companies have they've made the decision to go run with something that maybe we hadn't taken the time to consider it, but not that I suppose we weren't aware of it. They just kind of we just sort of let them run with it, because I think sometimes as well you've got to let people make some mistakes perhaps along the way, because you learn from your mistakes, or you hope you learn from your mistakes. So sometimes it's I guess it's just then for us weighing up in the background, right, okay, if this does go wrong, how catastrophic is it going to be? If it's not going to be, let's maybe let this one run, let them run with it and see what happens.
Coming back to the KERV side of things,
yes,
can you explain the operational setup at KERV and how that is a supportive means for entrepreneurs coming in potentially to the business, or things like that, and what you can offer, really, isn't it?
Sure. So we've got the central operations team, which is that's obviously the hub for KERV Capital. So any sort of potential new business partners that have sort of been picked up and sort of coming through the process with Stu and Kev and Andy and Weedy and myself from the sort of the courtship stage, I guess. The operations team's obviously there in the background already from that stage, looking at things. So it's a central team that covers, like we said at the beginning, really anything that isn't sales. So it covers finance, marketing, HR, facilities management, anything that's going to take focus away from actually selling. So then we've got the teams within that to sort of help manage all that. Entrepreneur will come on board, and we've got the launch plan. Follow the launch plan to make sure that once everything's put in place, so that there's literally the business is set up, ready to go. Very minimal effort really from the business partner. There's not really much they have to do. All the heavy workload is done through the operations team, and then once it's up and running, that doesn't stop. The operations team is there to constantly help with the marketing, manage payroll, invoicing, and all of that. Marketing, doing ongoing marketing support, all your social media posts, website. I know we're now looking into doing more in terms of paid advertising and lead generation in the background, all of which is managed by the operations team. So yeah, it's really it's almost like you've got a fully outsourced sort of business running in the background, working for you.
It's already there for you.
Yeah, and it's already there. Yeah, doing it for, like you said, 12, 13, 14 other businesses. Has been doing it for years, so has sort of seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. So kind of can sort of help with that and offer the advice. And then you've got, above and beyond that, you've got the other support, and it's all about helping that business partner with their journey and their learning, so that actually, if they maybe don't understand an element of it, hopefully at some point in the the coming years they will understand it, because we'll have helped them learn that, and then they will better understand how the finance department within a business works, or the marketing department.
Well, I think that's it. A lot of it really, and I know that an operations team is there for that, obviously, to learn and educate, really, to teach and educate. Sorry, like you just said there about one of the most important thing for an entrepreneur is to learn these things. Yeah. So really, although we are there for advice and stuff, what we are trying to do, what operations are trying to do at the end of the day is essentially teach and learn.
We're imparting wisdom.
Oh, yes. I love that.
That's it.
Imparting wisdom by Marc Rayner.
Yeah,
I love
there you
that.
go.
Yeah.
It's not just all about telling people what to do or doing it for them. Yeah, it's yes, in the early stages we might have to do a lot more of it, but then as time goes on, they'll learn it, and they'll understand it more, which is more importantly, and maybe appreciate it a bit more as well. Because with the understanding comes the appreciation that actually, these guys work pretty hard for me in the background. I understand now what's involved in setting up whatever it is. And
doing it a bit more themselves, really. Yeah. I think there is also there's a responsibility from us as an operations team, but is there a responsibility from the business owner themselves as well, in the operations, from the operations side of things, to then learn that themselves, and so they can then enforce it maybe in their own business and stuff. Is what I'd say.
I think so. Because I mean, obviously, I guess the hope one day is that these businesses grow that big that they have their own operations team internally. They're that big that not that we can't service it, but it just makes more sense for them to have their own. Yeah, that'd be great. And obviously, if that's the case, then they're going to need to understand. They're going to need to understand it from a business leader's point of view. There's definitely an expectation, I guess, from us on business partners to be open to learning about it and understanding business operations. No, absolutely. It's like you can take a horse to water, can't you? Yeah, that's it.
You can't make it drink. That's it. I'd say that. Yeah, definitely. Learning and educating as much as we can, and that's a benefit that entrepreneurs can gain from having that operations team on there and people, because there's so many parts of an operations team. Yeah. When you look at it from the outside, like you literally listed before, operations is one big term for about 5, 6.
Well, I mean, within KERV, it's literally covers everything you can think of apart from sales, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
And even now with marketing, you're actually doing a lot more. Even helping with sales now, with the lead generation and the paid advertising and everything. So,
and that's it. I think you've got obviously HR, marketing, finance, facilities, like you said before, but underneath that, there is so much that goes on underneath those
under
headings
each
as
individual
well.
thing.
It's like there's so much more that goes on, and I think it's just understanding probably from an entrepreneur's side of things that this is, how much there is available.
Well, that's it. Because sometimes, if you've come from being an employee, you wouldn't necessarily know that there's all that going on. You just see that you get given a login for a job board, for instance, and that it just works as credits. Whereas the work that goes in the background to make sure it's all there, set it all up. Obviously, that's just one small example, but you don't necessarily fully actually know what happens in the background and how much is involved in going into that contract negotiations and all of that. So
that fun stuff,
all the fun stuff that I love doing. And that's the other thing. A lot of what comes under operations is stuff that most people just don't like doing. Yeah, it's like a distraction. They'd rather just be getting on. Certainly a recruiter, they'd rather be getting on recruiting.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Whereas I actually quite enjoy doing all that other stuff in the background. Yeah. It works well.
One in a million more.
Oh, yeah.
No, to be fair though, I see that as well. Like obviously, I'm in marketing at the minute for KERV and whatnot, and I think just understanding people's business and stuff, it's great, and it's great to see them learn and understand what you're doing. Absolutely. So from an entrepreneur's point of view, I think if you're working with operations team, I think there's a mutual understanding of what you both.
I think that's the key thing. It's working with the team, not like it's not. We're not against them. We're work with us. I think that's the key thing.
Underlying message, really, isn't it, from the operations team? Yeah, absolutely. So when you're speaking about obviously KERV before, within the portfolio and whatnot, how to meet the sort of the unique needs and the goals of each business. You said about the distance thing before, about you don't want to spoon feed sort of entrepreneurs and stuff like that, but how does the operations team support businesses with their goals and unique needs specifically?
I mean, it's obviously each business is slightly different, so each business is going to have slightly different goals. Aside from making money, they're going to have different goals. So it's just about sort of getting really close to them from the outset and really sort of understanding those goals. So we're getting them to actually outline those to us so that it's then let's make sure that whatever the goal is, we can make sure that whichever element of operations is going to aid that, whether it's one specific department or the whole thing, and then let's make sure that the support we provide you is geared up to help you get there. Not every business we have in the KERV thing uses the full operations team or the full operations capability, because it just doesn't necessarily need it all. But some need it all. It just varies sort of, business by business. And obviously a lot of that is based around making sure that, it achieves the goals that they want to achieve. So, we make sure that whatever services that's going to, whatever services is going to, can't think of the word. Not enable? No. Whatever service is going to, can't think what the word is.
Enhance?
Yeah. Yeah, we'll go with enhance.
Yeah. We'll work on that one.
Okay, yeah. But just making sure that whatever we do, everything we do is aimed at working towards those goals, not fighting against them, obviously.
So, Mark, it's coming to the end of the podcast.
Yeah.
And a question I ask every person is one piece of golden advice for entrepreneurs all over. From an operational perspective, what piece of golden advice could you give to the audience out there? Yeah.
Well, we've probably covered elements, I think, of this in some of the answers. But for the KERV senior management team, we have a bit of a a saying, I guess, if you will, is that stay in your lane. So basically, it's all about focusing on your strengths. So make sure that you stick to your strengths, but more importantly, ask for help in other areas where you're maybe not as strong. So yes, making mistakes is you learn from your mistakes, but ask for help. Don't either suffer in silence or worry that I don't know, someone's going to think it's a stupid question or whatever. Just ask for help.
Help is always there.
That's it. Help's always there.
Yeah,
always there.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Mark, for today. It's been a pleasure.
A pleasure.
Always. Thank you very much for being on the podcast, and see you next time.
Yep.
Everybody. Right. Thanks for tuning in to KERVcast. To learn more about KERV and stay connected, be sure to check out the episode description, where you'll find links to our website, social media platforms, and more information about our special guests.